So I'm here again. I'm inspired, to make another video because I wanted to talk about something. Yesterday I watched, and this time might sound silly, but I watched Toy Story 5. And funnily enough, before I watched the film, I think in the morning or something, I already like thought of something. And yeah, I believe during my breakfast, because usually when I eat breakfast, I you know I watch on my iPad. I watch a video like some YouTube video, like all the time. Like every time on my breakfast, if I eat at home, I lunch or dinner. Every time that I eat something, I usually have like a tablet or like an iPad right in front of me, and I wouldn't say I'm on my phone that much, but I just noticed that I was on my phone quite a lot, and I was just like, you know, like um for today's standards, I feel like I'm not that much of a phone user. But then again, you know, on my phone, I believe like 3 hours a day, and then you can add to that my iPad as well, and I feel like that's quite some hours. But what I wanted to say today was because what I thought of that morning was I didn't want to be in front of my iPad every time that I use every time that I eat. And that's like tip of the iceberg, right? Because I noticed that on days where I don't use my phone a lot, those days are better, you know. Not just because of what I'm doing, but I just noticed that when there's a day where I just barely use my phone or don't listen to too much music. And I love music, don't get me wrong. I feel like I'm in a way like I'm fucking obsessed with music and just I love it. And I'm not saying anything against music or even using a phone. I feel like it's not wrong to be to use a phone. But I noticed the last like couple of months, I noticed some like urge in me to be like, I feel like I might it might benefit me to use it less. Like phones, music, like those are distractions. For example, when I was scrolling Instagram this morning, I just noticed that what I'm getting on my feed, not that I'm doom scrolling for like hours, because I feel like people are like really hyping this doom scroll thing, and I feel like yes, doom scrolling is a problem, but even when you take out the doom scrolls, just even doing it for like 15 minutes, I just notice how I'm perceiving what I'm seeing. So, for example, some news, some news accounts that I follow on Instagram, or just other things. I notice that I'm scrolling. I'm not even scrolling that fast because I've seen people scroll very fucking fast, and I'm like, what? You're not even processing this. But even when I'm scrolling quite slowly, I notice that I'm before the video is even 10 seconds in, I'm already opening the comments or I'm already on the next distraction, right? And it's just I notice that I can't even. Not that I'm like I'm not saying that I'm addicted to my phone because I know that I'm not, but just noticing how I'm processing things, and that's why like you know just life outside of your phone, even if you don't use your phone that much, I just noticed that life outside of your phone is much more impactful, and sometimes it's more boring. It is sometimes, most of the times I would say that it's quite boring. But if you live a bit more outside of your phone, a bit more outside of your iPad, or with your earphones in, or your what do you call them, earbuds and headphones, even like listening to music all the time. I noticed that a lot of people, especially my age, they're not really in contact with the world, unless they're like having a party, or like when like I noticed my people my age, like students, at night, then they're like quite out there, but we only have like a drink, but when it comes to just doing the groceries or doing whatever, I notice that a lot of them have headphones on. They're not very present. They're not really making any connections with the people around them. And I'm guilty as well. And there are, of course, people my age that are that are different than that. But I noticed that a lot of like those subtle, just minute con- uh, conversations, or just not even conversation, but just interactions with people around you. I feel like that the art of just having a simple connection with people around you, I feel like we're losing that in my generation. And I live in the Netherlands. I don't know if it's worse, for example, in the US, or like other countries. I don't know how exactly it's there, how what it's like over there. But even in my country, which I feel like we're doing quite well, but even in my country, I feel like there's just people my age, you can't really connect with them that well when it comes to like just when you're in the grocery store, or when you're like most places, and maybe that's just young people, maybe it's just always been this way, might be. But if, for example, older people, if you look at older people, they're always way more, looking for those interactions with people, and just way more in their surroundings. They're way more present, not just like present in the moment, but just present with the people around them. Also, sometimes with touching people, like they're more like, hey, like, or just say hello and like wink at you, or and I know some old men can be like a bit gross when it comes to like younger women. But and I know that sounds like a bit of a weird thing to say, but I'm saying like maybe those older men aren't like not the best examples. But I feel like you know even like, I don't know, every type of older person, not all types, not all, everyone. It's like some of them are not. But I feel like when I do have interactions with people, or just like a random interaction where you're just having a quick, just nice interaction, usually are with older people or kids, like small kids, like just the kid that just comes up to you and says something. Like I feel like that the art of just having an interaction with people is either with very young kids or older people. And I feel like, especially with my age, having an interaction with people your age might be me as well. I'm not saying that I'm like this super extroverted guy that's talking to everyone. I'm not like that, but I do love small interactions. But I just notice people my age are headphones on, or like headphones on, and like earbuds in, or and I do that sometimes too, but I just noticed like we're quite cut off from our surroundings, and we're all living in this online world. Not like all the time, because I feel like a lot of people at my age are also like having conversations. Sure, they are, but I just noticed that. And I might have gone a bit off topic, but what I also wanted to talk about was just in your own personal, like for example, I live at home. I live at home. No, I live in the studio. I said I don't know if, maybe that might be a Dutch word. I don't know if in studio, like it's like I live on my own in like a small apartment, basically one room. I believe it's in studio is also just a word in America or something. But I live alone, and I noticed that I sometimes, especially now that the weather is getting better, I feel a bit more lonely, because I feel like this. I have a tendency to wanting to go outside. If the weather is not that good, I feel less guilty, to be inside. And not that I'm inside all the time, because I do lots of stuff. But I do notice that when I'm on my phone less, when I take those distractions away, even if it becomes a bit more boring, I do notice that I'm more content with being on my own, or being, in my apartment on my own, which is like funny. But what I also wanted to say is that when you do listen to a bit less of music, music a bit less, and when you open your phone a bit less, whenever you're bored, what happens when you do that is you can get connected to yourself a little bit better. And that might take time, but once you get rid of those distractions, because if you think of a song and immediately you're like, oh, I can grab my phone, I can put on that song, or oh, what was that, and you just like, or just scrolling on YouTube and watching all these super cool videos. But if you're constantly satiated, or like you're constantly being satisfied with every like thought that you have, you're like, oh, I want to do this, and you're always like getting gratification. I'm not even talking about the dopamine addiction that people are talking about. I'm not even doing the scientific route of like the actual addiction, the actual addictions that are being formed nowadays with the scrolling and the the endless social media algorithms. What I'm trying to say is like, it's not even that far off from what those people are saying, but it's the instant gratification, and it's the the loss of boredom. We're not bored anymore. Kids are not bored anymore. They have phones. They can just scroll if they want. They can just search up anything, and that's good. It's good to be able to be on the internet. I feel like the internet is not bad. Social media is not bad. It's being used in a I would say a not a very good way for children or just society as a whole. I feel like we are forgetting how to be bored, and I've not been bored for such a long time, and that's bored. When you're in your room and you feel bored, that's not being bored. It isn't like what you're used to. Probably just you have this empty feeling of like, oh, I don't know what to do. You have all these things that you could do, but that's I wouldn't even say that that's boredom. That's more just like, you're, I don't know, maybe that is boredom, but I feel like it's not the boredom that I know from being a child, where you're just like, I don't know, maybe I'm not really onto something here, but I feel like it might be a different type of boredom, and more just where the other one is might be a bit more being overblown by everything that you can have, and it's like, oh, I don't even know what to do because it's just too much, and you're just kind of getting lazy. I feel like when you were a kid, when you were bored, you didn't feel laziness. You felt some like urge to just still, like, I don't know, come up with something. And maybe as a kid I was never actually bored because you always had something to do. You were always just creative, and or either just doing something or being with other children, or just to be like, with friends. But there was some emptiness to it, in the sense of that you were like, I didn't have a phone when I was young. I was just outside, and it was sometimes it was boring. You were like, oh, what are we gonna do? Well, but you always just did something, and at the end of the day, you felt satisfied. I never, sometimes I did feel a little bit like scared, or a little bit like, when you're children, when you're young, you might have a bit more of those, like, funny enough, more of those existential things where, like, oof, the world is scary, or like, I did have those, and it might be a bit of a tension, but that was fun in a way, like that sometimes being a bit bored and feeling a bit empty, like, it did somehow make life feel more grounded and more like deeper, right? Whereas, like, when you're older, especially now with our generation, we get everything that we want, and we're, you know like, when you get on your Instagram, you get all these things, all these cool things, but they're not really hitting you. Even, not even if you're like, I'm not even talking about like being depressed and like having no, like, nothing hit you. It's just more like, that's also true, that when you're depressed, nothing really hits you, but it's more just like you're so used to things, seeing cool things on the internet, that, like, for example, I also watched a podcast from Alex O'Connor yesterday, about, for example, writing a letter. Texting is so, like, easy. Like, it's just you're texting, and it's like, let's say that you send someone that you love a letter, which we don't do anymore, but if, let's say that you do that, a lot more thought gets put into that letter, because you have to, you can now just, okay, write something, and let's say that you give that to the person that you were, intending to write a letter to, just like something nice about them, or that's gonna hit so much more, that letter, because it's like, it's something real that they have in their hands. It's like, you could also send a text that, but I feel like just the idea of having something physical, having something that was put effort into it, like the idea of just putting effort into something, that's beautiful, and being a bit more bored, from time to time, is good, and just having that, yeah, just a bit that feeling of like, oh, like a little bit of that boredom, and little bit of the feeling of like, oh, this little bit of, I wouldn't say empty feeling, but a little bit of, I don't know what the exact word is, but just that feeling of, like this little, like, how do you call this? This little like thing you gotta like overcome, like, because we're not used to like doing boring things anymore. And in the beginning, it's gonna be a bit boring, and it's gonna be like a hurdle that you have to cross, right? But once you do that, once you do that more often, life will feel more meaningful, even though it feels like you're doing something meaningless. If that makes sense. But yeah, I would say just I just want to use my phone less and less, and I feel like that makes me happier, or at least might be a bit more boring, but it's life is more, like less is more. I feel like that's the sentiment in that way. Sometimes less is more. So yeah, I just wanted to say that, and just talk about I just wanted to talk about just general, like, we're hungry, like it's also, when it comes to eating food, we're all just eating like a lot of food, and like not even like that nutritious, right? Is that how you say nutritious? And I feel like it's the same with when it comes to like what we see on the phone. Like we're all just quick little snacks, but we're not actually eating good meals, and we're not actually just sitting down preparing a meal, slowly just preparing a meal, just being like, hey, let me just do this. And like, I'm no cook, I don't fucking cook a lot. I want to do that more. I'm going to do that more. But using that like as like an allegory for like how we do that when it comes to being bored. We're not really bored anymore. It's just, like, like, how do you say that, like, as an allegory, like, we don't really prepare food anymore. We don't really just sit down, be bored, and just maybe read the paper, just a physical paper, to be like, hey, let me just read this. And it's a bit boring and a bit slow, but it's like it's deeper. Sometimes slow and boring things have deeper roots, and they will affect you more. You won't like have all these flashy things, and you won't be like, oh, this is so cool, but you, in the end, at the end of the day, you'll be more touched by things if you take things more slowly, and just, I would say, use your phone a bit less. But this is not a, oh, you need to use your phone a bit more or a bit less, but just try. And just, when you do use your phone less, and this is the last thing, it's a bit of a long video, but this is the last thing I want to say about it. When you do use your phone a bit less, and when things get a bit more quiet, a bit more boring, listen to your gut feeling a bit more. Just listen. I don't know what's gonna say for you. I know what it's saying for me. Not all the time, but listen to that gut feeling. Listen to that inner guidance, and that will come up more if you use your phone less, or if you just take a walk outside, maybe with music, maybe without. I would, think it would be better if you do it sometimes without music. Take a walk without music. Take a walk. Do your dishes without some music, or if you feel like it, do it with music. But sometimes just do it with less. And I think that's the best thing to say. Like, less is more. Yeah, I feel like that's what we're missing in this generation. And yeah, thank you for watching, if you've actually watched it till the end. Yeah, I'm gonna make more videos because I feel like I have a lot to say, and I hope people are seeing this. I don't think that a lot of people will, but even if one person is touched by this, then that's cool. Thanks. See you in the next one.